That's powerful. You see a show like you're on right now on ABC for Life. You obviously have the story of Isaac Wright Jr., played by Nicholas Pinnock, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm saying his name wrong, I apologize. Aaron Wallace on the show. You played Jamal Bishop on the show. Talk about the show For Life. Talk about working with executive producer 50 Cent. I want to unravel a couple things with this, man. So, yeah, just talk about working with 50 Cent first off and how it is working with For Life, the series.
I think that For Life is one of those projects, man, where we get an opportunity to kind of really take the system to task. The prison system here in the United States and the politics and how like just the dirty workings within and how people are, and at the same time how prisoners are able to kind of create and make a community and live a life from a day-to-day basis and seen as human beings and not just as their crimes. I think the biggest thing with 50 being the executive producer is that, he comes off the success of Power, off the success of all the different things that he's done, all the way down to the 50 Water. He's like a guy who, when he speaks, executives listen. And one of the best things about it is to have somebody speak like that, who's in the room, who has the community's back. It's you feel comfortable. You know that the story is going to be handled well, and it's going to be handled authentically. And that's one of the best things that is one of the best assets of us having 50 there. Never mind the fact that he's also able to come onto the show and bring his star power onto the show, but just even behind the scenes, he's able to make sure that all of these things are done in an authentic way because he's got to protect his brand. And he also just, he knows that he's beholden to a community. And we got Isaac there, so between the two of them, with Isaac Wright and with 50, I was like, this is the only way to tell this story is to make sure that these two cats are involved.
For people who don't know, can you give the backstory on who Isaac Wright Jr. is?
Yeah, Isaac Wright Jr. is a brother who was falsely accused of being a drug dealer, and he got convicted of the kingpin law and was sentenced to life in prison. And he learned the law. He became a legal aid he became a legal aid while in prison and learned the laws and was able to defend and get himself out by using other cases as precedents as evidence in order to get himself out. And then once he got out, he was able to become a lawyer, and now he's dedicated his life to defending those who are being either falsely accused or who are being harshly accused, overly accused for their crimes. And he's been an incredible asset to society and to us on this project.
Dope. You know what I wanted to ask you? Being an inmate on the show, Jamal Bishop, did you have to go and work or see or meet any inmates to kind of get a vibe or how they move or how they act? Did you get to meet any of them? And if you did, how are they and how are they feeling right now, given the virus? If you were around them at that time, I doubt it. But how are they and how's their vibe right now?
Well, I mean, the reality fact is, I'm a black man who moves a certain way. The prison life is I've never been in prison. I've never been in the system, but there's a large percentage of people around me, in my family, related to me, people I grew up with, friends and acquaintances who have been in and out of the system. So I've been I've been very close to that from my whole life. Been on plenty of visitations and things of that nature for my whole life. So that was almost second nature, unfortunately, just, learning about that. There were a lot of guys who worked on the project, including 50 himself, who spent time in the system, and a lot of the actors, background actors. And so, they had a lot of stories to share, and they made sure things were authentic. We got out of there. We were done shooting before the pandemic hit. And also we didn't ever shoot with actual inmates in the scenes at the same time. And when we were in prisons, when we were actually actual prisons, we were in different wings where we weren't interacting with the inmates. That was something that they were very strict on, making sure that we didn't have any contact with them. So I know 50 did some visits, but even that was like kind of restricted. So it wasn't like the whole cast to go roll with 50 to go say what's up to the prisoners, but they made some special amends for him and he was able to do that.
Nice. One last question. Oh God, I got you. For Life, the series, how is that impacting prison reform? Or do you think it has an impact on prison reform as we see it today?
Yeah, I think it will. No question about that. I mean, I don't know exactly how it's affected it at this very, very moment, but I think on a large scheme of things, it's huge because here it is. We're telling a story about the prison system, showing these inmates as human beings, and we're putting them in the households of America, middle Americans. Because like the question that you asked, like, how did you even go about researching this character being in prison? And I mean, and I think, it's something you have to ask, but I think all three of us, we all kind of know, is like, listen, man, everybody around me has been in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But then there's a whole large part of America who don't know anything about prisons. They've never been around anybody who's been to jail. They know cops in a certain way. They're officer friendly, or Carl or John.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Every cop I ever met, his name is Jake. I ain't never met no cop not named Jake. You know what I'm saying? So if you ain't Jake, I'm calling you Jake. So it's just like, I understand, but we understand that. You know what I'm saying? And so here now we have a show that we're humanizing these prisoners and letting people get an inside look as to what's going on in the system, and it's happening in their living room where they're comfortable. And I think that you get a lot of middle Americans being able to look at this and say, wait a minute, there is a problem. It's bigger than just me sitting here thinking, that these people are behind bars that deserve to be there. They're these animals. It's like, there's human beings behind those walls. And what ends up happening is those people end up voting. And when they vote, legislation changes. And when legislation changes, that therefore puts into motion the change that we need to have happen. And also, it just creates empathy, man. And when you have art that you can, get people to empathize with other communities, you've done a large part of your job.
Yeah, Pop. I wanted to ask you, what's next? I know you guys are, finished that up. What's next for you? What's on the horizon? What do you have, planned, for the people in your career coming up?
Man, let's see. I mean, at this point, ready to roll into the second season of the show. God willing, all this stuff smooths out. We'll be able to get back to work. So I'd love to jump into season 2 of the for life. Sorry. And then in my wife's show, All Rise. So I'm like thinking way ahead of myself. So yeah. So my wife has a show called All Rise on CBS, and I'm a part of that big season finale. We shot that whole episode virtually, and so I'm on that as well. And then there's a couple other things that I've been looking at, but right now everything's on pause as a result of COVID-19.
So speaking on your wife, she did an amazing job on the Marvel series. She was on Luke Cage. What other Marvel show was she on? Daredevil, or which one was she on?
She was on Luke Cage. She was on man, damn, I'm supposed to know this right off the top of my head, right? The one where all of them was together. I keep wanting to call it Super Friends. It ain't Super Friends though. It was the Avengers or something like that. Dang, I don't know, son.
How was it working?
Check that
How was it working with her on Luke Cage? You played Cockroach on there. That was a dope ass character you played. Talk about playing with your wife alongside of her, and also Luke Cage being canceled. How you felt about that?
Working with her is great, man. Working with Simone is dope because we work with each other often. Sometimes on purpose. Sometimes we plan it that way, or just it ends up working out that way. But she, one of the things with acting, with anything, is you got to be able to trust your scene partner, and I trust her implicitly. So I'm able to feel really free, and I can do a lot of great work with her. So it's cool. And when we were working on Luke Cage, it was great because we got to play Nemesis, which was a lot of fun. We have to exercise our arguments with each other on the screen for everybody to see, because our arguments can get a little spicy sometimes. So that was good to be able to do that and get paid at the same time.
Absolutely.
But when they canceled the show, I was really concerned that she was gonna take it hard, because at the time that they called her to tell her about the cancellation, she was actually guesting on a show that I was doing on CBS All Access called Tell Me a Story. She was playing my wife on that show. And she had to step off set to take the phone call. And I was under the impression that they were about to give her own show. So when she came back from the phone call, I was like, yo, that's it. They called you, right? Misty Knight got her own show. And she was like, yo, they canceled Luke Cage. I can't believe it.
Wow.
And I was, at that moment, I was like, I went into husband mode, like, babe, you cool, you see, and I need to get you a drink, because I thought she was going to be crying or something. And she was just like, oh, that's cool. We'll move on to the next one. I know I'm going to be all right. And she did. She just kept it moving. And she took it on the chin. I was really proud of her.
What would you say your most challenging role to date? What role got you the most? Like, damn, that shit was crazy.
Probably Jamal. To be real with you, yeah, that I would say definitely I'm playing the most challenging role at this moment for me. Simply because this just recent revelations about his background and being homosexual and trying to exist in that prison space, man, was big for me. I'm a heterosexual male, and having to take that and approach that character from a place of sensitivity and a place of understanding. At the same time, being concerned like what that's going to mean for me walking down the block. That kind of thing was, was big for me. It was a challenge, and it really challenged my empathy and my understanding of the human experience. And as an artist, that's what you want to do. You want to walk away being changed some to a certain extent, and having a better understanding of this world that you're exploring. So whereas I didn't have to do a lot of research to understand just prison life in and of itself, I did have to, do a lot of talking and understanding about just, essentially living your life on the down low.
I didn't even know he was gay yet. I'm on like episode 7 of the first season.
Yeah, surprise.
I don't know when that episode comes on. I didn't see that shit yet, but
man, I just busted the window open for you.
Yeah, it sure did. Talk about Bishop's development, how he's going to develop in season 2, how the character develops throughout the season, because he's my man, Aaron Wilde's best friend in the show. It seems like that's his dude that he goes to. So talk about his development and Bishop.
Well, I mean, in terms of second season, that still remains to be seen. I mean, there've been some discussions about what we want to do, but I don't want to say, because if that doesn't happen, I don't want to be the one. Or if it does happen, I don't want to give it away. But there are some things. Look, he goes through some major things, and like I said, there's the revelation and that happens about his character, but then there's like the big battle between Jamal and Cassius that comes to a head, and at some point in time, one of them's going to have to assert themselves as the true leader. And as we know, Jamal has been very much a guy who's able to move between the different worlds and is kind of a connector. And I think after his clash with Cassius, things are going to change. He's either going to have to take a leadership position, or he's going to be constantly watching his back. So I think that's going to be really good to explore, him having to go from being a nice guy to, maybe having to put some muscle down every now and again.
So Cassius is 50's character, right?
Yes.
So how is it going toe to toe with 50 on set? How?
Yeah. Yo, it was dope. It's dope. I mean, here's the thing, man. 50, myself, Nicholas, all of us got boxing backgrounds, man.
Oh shit!
Yeah. And so, every last one of us wanted to show how good we were at fighting. However, the reality fact is, when you fight the TV, you got to pull them punches, man. And listen. Nobody wanted to tell the executive producer, don't punch me, because he caught me in my lip like twice. I had to be like, yo, hold up, man.
Damn.
Hold on, man. We having a lot of fun. This is very exciting, but you don't need to relax with the punching in the lip business, man. I don't want to hit you back, because I don't know that. I'm pretty sure if we went toe to toe, it wouldn't end well for me. I have to hit you with something, and now we dealing with a whole different era of things, man. I don't want to do that.
That's funny, man.
I don't want to be in that space, man. So we had a good laugh about that, because he body slammed Nicholas. I mean, it was cool, man, and because all three of us being rough and tumble kind of guys, man, it was just kind of fun. It was hard for them to get us to stop when they called cut. We still wanted to fight and get it out, man. So that was a lot of fun, man. Having him on set is dope all the time. I think he's got the best stories.
Yeah,
so he's been a lot of places, and he knows a lot of stuff, man. And it's fun to just pick his brain and get him talking.
Yeah, I think it's great to see the evolution, 50 Cent, man. We got to see him right before our eyes our whole life, man.
Mm-hmm.
A good dude, man.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And he's smart. I mean, that goes without saying that he's smart. I mean, when I say smart, I mean, literally got an angle on how to get some paper at all times. All the ways, you know what I'm saying? And to watch it kind of watch their mind work like that is like, yo, man, he gets credit for really being an incredible business mind, but this dude is always working, man. Always working. And that's impressive. Especially when you come on the set and then you end up turning around and doing a character, and it's like, yo, he knows everything. He knows our line.